This is a full story. Puppy wishes you all a happy and enjoyable story. After the car accident, I deliberately pretended to have lost my memory to tease my husband and son. "Who are you?" A glint of secret joy flashed in my son's eyes as he led the woman standing outside the ward in. He said to me, "Auntie, my parents and I are here to visit the patient." My husband beside me remained silent and acquiesced to my son's address. "Auntie, my parents and I are here to visit the patient." The sweet childish voice echoed in the ward. With a bandage wrapped around my forehead, I looked down at my 5-year-old son Jack, who was holding someone's hand in each of his, with a sly smile on his face. Regarding my son's address, Rocky, who was wearing a suit beside him, had no intention of correcting it. Instead, there was a hint of inquiry in his eyes when he looked at me. The woman held by Jack was wearing a long white dress. She had an elegant and gentle temperament. At this moment, being stared at by me, she somewhat nervously tucked her hair behind her ears. Seeing that I was staring at Serena, Jack stood in front of Alice, warily in a protective stance. If I had really lost my memory, I would really have thought that there was a loving family of 3 standing in front of me. Jack tugged at Rocky's hand and whispered, "Dad, since Mom has lost her memory, can you two get divorced now?" Although Jack was speaking softly, he controlled the volume so that I could hear him clearly. I knew his little trick. He was punishing me because I had scolded him a few words yesterday, making him lose face in front of the servants. He was angry. This was Jack's usual prank. He took pleasure in punishing me, but I didn't want to play his prank with him anymore. Since I had said that I had lost my memory, I would just keep pretending. Pretend that I had no such son and no such husband. "Excuse me, who are you?" Jack was a little surprised and also a little flustered. "Do you really not remember me? It's impossible for you not to remember me. I'm your favorite kid." Rocky frowned, his cold eyes became colder, and his voice was impatient. "Haley, don't pretend. The doctor said it was just a mild concussion and it wasn't serious. Don't think that you can avoid the divorce just because you have lost your memory. Yes, don't pretend anymore. You love us so much. How could you forget us?" Jack's fierce look was exactly the same as Rocky's, and I just felt a headache. Before I could speak, the nurse at the door knocked on the door and said, "The patient needs to rest quietly. Please let the irrelevant people go out first." Rocky and Jack took Serena and left without a word. The little nurse came in and said to me, "Your husband just came. Now he has gone out to buy porridge for you." "My husband?" I was a little confused. "Didn't my husband just be driven out by you?" The little nurse blinked her eyes and said, "Yes, actually, I was in the obstetrics and gynecology department 4 years ago. I saw you several times. You are so good looking that it's really hard to forget. I did have my prenatal check up in this hospital 4 years ago, but Rocky had never accompanied me." The little nurse continued, "Moreover, your husband is one of the few people who didn't play with his phone during the whole process. He was anxiously waiting for you to finish the examination at the door. He is tall and handsome and so careful and dedicated. At that time, it made us several little nurses believe in love again. By the way, who are the big one and the small one to you? Although they are very handsome, their faces are as dark as debt collectors." I couldn't help laughing. It was my brother who was 5 years younger than me. At that time, he was just 18 years old. I didn't explain my relationship with Rocky and Jack. After all, we would soon have nothing to do with each other. Soon, Peter came in, carrying a lunchbox and gasping for breath. I was already hungry. I hadn't eaten anything today, and my stomach was already aching faintly. Peter quickly opened the porridge and put it on the small table board, arranging the spoon, napkin, and paper cup neatly. "This is warm water, and this is your favorite preserved egg and lean meat porridge. You eat first, and I'll peel the eggs for you." I accepted his care very contentedly. Since I first saw Peter brought back by my grandfather at the age of 15, he had automatically become my most loyal servant. After eating a few mouthfuls of porridge, I felt the stomachache eased. As soon as I looked up, I saw that Peter's eyes were red. "You don't know. When I heard the news that you had a car accident, I was scared to death." His lips were trembling, and his voice was a little choked. A trace of sourness instantly surged in my nose. Facing the car accident, who wouldn't be afraid? I was just lucky and didn't hurt the vital parts. I was worried that Rocky and Jack would be worried, so I thought of joking and pretending to have lost my memory to tease them. But how could a heartless person worry about me? I was discharged from the hospital in a few days. I insisted on explaining to the doctor that except for Rocky and Jack, I could remember all other people and things. After being discharged from the hospital, what the doctor told Rocky was that it was a transient amnesia caused by the concussion and that I would gradually remember it after recovery. I returned to the home with Rocky. A beautiful piano piece came from the living room. Serena and Jack were playing a piano duet with 4 hands. After the piece ended, Serena gave a thumbs up and praised, "Our little pianist is really amazing." Jack blushed and giggled, "It's all because you taught me well." It was a picture of a kind mother and a filial son. I walked upstairs without changing my expression. After seeing me, Jack put away the smile on his face. Serena quickly stood up and said, "Mrs. Rocky, how are you feeling?" I stood on the stairs and nodded at her and said, "I'm almost recovered. You can continue." I don't hate Serena. I'm just jealous of her. Serena is not the third party in my marriage with Rocky. She is the first love and white moonlight that Rocky can't forget. Although I'm already married to Rocky, there is a very right sentence. The one who is not loved is the third party. When Rocky was 18, in the most glorious year of his life, I first saw that Rocky liked someone so passionately. Last month, Sam's group announced bankruptcy, and Serena was forced to return to the country. Serena used all her savings to fill the loopholes in the debts of Sam's group. However, it was not easy for her, who majored in music, to find a high-paying job in USA. Rocky found her and asked her to be Jack's piano teacher with a salary of $60,000 a month. "New mother is so nice. I love new mother the most," Jack said loudly in the living room. "Master Rocky, I'm not. Please don't call me like that anymore." Serena looked at Jack a little embarrassedly. Jack was a little dissatisfied with her address and hugged Serena's thigh affectionately. "If you call me Master Rocky again, I'll be angry. You should call me Jack. You are much gentler than my mother. I like you the most." He glanced at the direction of the upstairs bedroom and saw that I hadn't come out yet, then continued, "Can you live in my house? I want to see you as soon as I wake up. My father has agreed. Why don't you live in my house? My house is so luxurious that you can have anything you want." Rocky actually proposed to Serena to live here. There are many rooms, and it's no trouble for her to run back and forth. Moreover, Serena has no money now. But Serena insisted on renting a house outside and refused Rocky's proposal. "Master Rocky, Jack, you should continue to practice today's piano piece." Jack shook his head, determined to make her live at home. "Are you afraid of my mother? Don't worry, my father and I will protect you. She always obeys my father's words and won't do anything to you. Jack was born by me. He is very smart. He knows best what to say to hit my sore spot." I put on my pearl earrings and then walked out slowly. Seeing me coming downstairs, Serena was a little embarrassed. "Mrs. Rocky, It's okay, Serena. Just live here. I know it takes you 3 hours to go back and forth by bus every day." I took the shoes handed by the servant. "Don't feel burdened. I'm also very happy that you can come back." Jack was a little surprised and was stunned for a moment. In the past, if Dad called Serena's name when he was drunk, Mom would cry with red eyes. Yes, Serena's visit to his house last month was not the first time Jack and Serena met. He had secretly seen the photos of women carefully preserved in Dad's drawer and the names of other women muttered by Dad when he was drunk. This made him find the best weapon to punish Mom, but now this weapon has no effect. "I want to eat ice cream. Bring me 2. "No, I want to eat 10. The only response to him was the sound of me closing the door. During the days in the hospital, I was unkempt every day. Finally, I was discharged from the hospital and had to hurry to the beauty salon for skincare. The driver outside the door had been waiting for a long time, and Jack inside the door put away the expression on his face. "Master, the ice cream is here." The servant quickly took it out of the refrigerator. "Who wants to eat it?" He threw the ice cream on the ground. He stared straight at the closed door. Did Mom really forget him? Rocky's mother Alice knew that Serena had returned to the country and that Rocky had made her Jack's piano teacher, so she came over with several bags of luxury goods. On the sofa, the elegant and noble lady held Serena's hand. "Serena, good child, you have really suffered. You said that if you had been with Rocky from the beginning and Sam's group had been managed by Rocky, how could your family go bankrupt now?" Serena was a little panicked. "Aunt Alice, you can't say that. The past has become a foregone conclusion. Now I'm very grateful that Boss Rocky is willing to give me a job. Why can't I say that? Now I'm very relieved to leave Jack to you." Alice patted her hand with satisfaction. Alice whispered, "Rocky is going to get divorced. Do you know that? He wants to get divorced as soon as you come back. Doesn't this explain something? Don't worry, even Jack likes you very much. You won't be wronged in our family, and Rocky will also help your Serena family turn things around." Alice didn't notify me to entertain her when she came over, although she knew that I was clearly at home. I was very sensible and didn't come out to disturb them reminiscing about the old days. Not only Rocky and Jack like Serena, but Rocky's mother Alice also likes Serena very much. Long before I got married to Rocky, Alice wanted Serena to be her daughter-in-law. Serena comes from a family of scholars, and she is a good match for Rocky's family. Just at that time, Rocky fell in love with Serena at first sight, and Alice was even more delighted and immediately wanted to prepare for the marriage of the two families. Unfortunately, Serena didn't like Rocky and resolutely rejected Rocky's confession and went abroad to continue her music studies. Although Alice was a little regretful, she liked Serena even more and thought that she was a girl with ideas and pursuits. And I, born in a small family, was vain and greedy for wealth and glory, and I used all means to marry Rocky. I could see that Alice actually despised me and even hated me, but her good upbringing made her not show it very obviously. Sometimes I think that if Serena had married Rocky from the beginning, it would have been a happy thing for everyone. The mobile phone vibrated, and I opened it to check. The text message shows that the accidental injury insurance compensation for the last car accident had been paid. I thought that I would slowly forget what happened on the day of the car accident because of fear. However, when I closed my eyes, everything seemed like yesterday. It was raining heavily that day, and I was on the highway with Rocky. Someone called Rocky, and I could hear the voice on the other end of the phone clearly. Boss Rocky, a group of debt collectors are going to make trouble at the Serena family. They are going to trouble Miss Serena. Rocky looked at me sideways. I knew that he was not asking for my consent, but telling me that he was going to the Serena family to find Serena. The current direction was opposite to that of the Serena family. I said softly, "Drop me off at the service area ahead. I'll take a taxi back by myself." As soon as I got out of the car, although I quickly opened my umbrella, I was still soaked through. The black Bentley roared past me, splashing water all over my face. The rusty feelings met the rainy day again, and the car I took slipped on the highway because it was old. At the moment when the car lost control, my whole body was hairy, and I quickly fastened the seatbelt in the back seat. My heart was beating rapidly, and my brain was blank. With a bang, under the violent impact, my head hit the car window heavily. At this moment, time seemed to slow down. My mind involuntarily retraced the first half of my life, but all the memories were about Rocky. At the age of 10, my parents gritted their teeth and took out a loan to buy a villa in the most wealthy area in New York. I met Rocky. My parents said that I must please him carefully because he was the crown prince of the New York. Rocky was very good looking, and I was also very willing to play with him. I just followed him like this for 7 years. At the age of 17, I seemed to like Rocky, but he hated me very much. In the year when he loved Serena the most, I was called a bootlicker by people in his circle, and people around me called me clown sister. At the age of 18, Rocky fell in love with Serena. I watched him revolve around Serena behind him, and then watched him be in low spirits after being rejected. At the age of 21, Rocky was drunk and pressed me on the bed to kiss me. He kept calling Serena's name in his mouth. I should have pushed him away and slapped him, but my hand shrank back. My father's company had a problem with cash flow and needed a large sum of money. And being with Rocky was also the wish of me and my parents for more than 10 years. I endured it silently. Rocky tossed me for as long as he called Serena's name. Our matter was soon known by Rocky's grandfather. Rocky's family has always been a very traditional family. He made Rocky marry me, and I got what I wanted and married Rocky. At the age of 22, I was pregnant. The baby was very troublesome. During that period, I had severe pregnancy reactions, and the delivery was even more difficult. Memory is a kind of intertwined pain. When I opened my eyes again, I was lying in the ward. I felt uncomfortable all over and had a splitting headache. At the age of 27, my son in front of my hospital bed called Serena mother, and my husband also acquiesced. I pretended to be indifferent, but countless moments were stabbing me. The people I didn't want to lose were looking forward to my leaving early. I chose to be silent. Perhaps happiness didn't belong to me at all. Would you be mean to the people you love? I really wanted to ask Rocky and Jack, but when they saw Serena, I thought I already knew the answer. Rocky fell in love with Serena at first sight, and Jack also liked Serena at first sight. This was the first time Jack showed his liking for others. People are always persistent in the things they at first sight. Jack is more and more like his father, whether in appearance, personality, or preferences. They like Serena. I never thought that Serena was a third party, because from that night on, I stole what belonged to Serena. The reason why people are painful is that they pursue the wrong things. I think this marriage has come to an end. It's time to return Rocky and Jack to Serena. In fact, Rocky had prepared the divorce agreement on the day Serena came back. He had wanted to divorce for a long time and then pursue Serena again. As he wished, I informed the lawyer of Rocky's family and went to Rocky's company together. I agreed to the divorce. I looked at him calmly. Rocky was a little surprised. Lawyer William handed each of us a divorce agreement. I quickly signed my name on the paper with a swish. Rocky paused when he was about to sign, and the fingertips holding the pen turned white. Lawyer William hesitated and said, "Rocky, you can sign it after you have considered it clearly." I knew Rocky's mood. Perhaps even if you raise a dog, you will have feelings. And I had been following him around for 16 years. "Jack belongs to me." He looked at me with some tentative eyes. I nodded. I didn't want either of them anymore. He took a deep look at me again, trying to capture the sadness, heartache, and reluctance he wanted to see on my face. However, there was none. He clenched the pen and seemed to sign his name angrily, and the signature was deeply engraved. And I just looked at the property division agreement and left Rocky's office very satisfied. In the empty and quiet office, Lawyer William was shivering, feeling that Rocky was emitting cold air all over his body. "Rocky, do you want to announce the news of your divorce from your wife to the public?" "No, she's just throwing a tantrum." After saying this, Rocky seemed to be comforted by himself, and even his tightly locked brows relaxed. "Don't let this matter leak out. The wife will come back by herself. She just has amnesia and has forgotten me and Jack. She loves me so much and loves Jack so much. She will remember soon." The doctor said that the amnesia was only temporary. When she remembers, she will definitely come back crying and begging me to get back together. This divorce is a punishment for her forgetting us so completely. When she comes back crying and apologizing, I will forgive her and remarry her. Rocky's annoyed mood disappeared instantly, and he picked up the coffee on the table and took a sip. Lawyer William was sweating profusely and took out a tissue to wipe the sweat on his forehead. "The divorce agreement has been signed, and the property has been divided. Is the wife just throwing a tantrum?" When I was about to leave, I thought I would be very sad. After all, it was a place where I had lived for 6 years. But I felt very relaxed, as if I had no shackles. I was no longer someone's wife or someone's mother. I didn't have to please anyone anymore, and I didn't have to be afraid that someone wouldn't like me anymore. I took advantage of the fact that neither of them was at home, called 3 trucks, and spent tens of thousands of yuan to hire 3 Japanese-style moving companies. I packed up and took away all my luxury bags, clothes, jewelry, skincare products that belonged to me. There were also my baking supplies, a cabinet of high-end tableware and chopsticks that I carefully selected, several pieces of furniture that I was used to, and many decorations that I bought. I even packed up and took away some gifts that I spent a lot of money on for Rocky and Jack. The father and son didn't like them at all, and they were placed in the corner of the cabinet. They didn't even know if I took them away. Since that was the case, I'd better sell them second hand. In this way, they could play their last value. After all, we were divorced. If they saw these unlikable things again in the future, they would probably feel very uncomfortable. There were many things that I had packed up. Fortunately, I hired 3 companies, and there were enough people. All the things were packed and loaded onto the truck in less than 2 hours. The house suddenly became empty. Rocky would definitely feel that the house had suddenly become clean and tidy when he came back. He had always disliked having too many things in the house. Now they were all gone. I was very considerate and left enough space for the hostess who was about to move in. Before walking out of the yard, I took a last look at the villa. I would never come back again. The nanny stood at the gate and wiped her tears quietly. "Madam, are you really leaving?" The nanny had been here since I moved in. She was very kind to me and treated me like her daughter and loved me very much. I thought that only the nanny here would shed real tears because of my leaving. I took the nanny's hands with both hands and smiled faintly. "You should congratulate me. This is a good thing for me." Rocky was very efficient and quickly transferred the divided property to me. I used the small change in my account to buy a 200 square meter large flat that I had taken a fancy to last month. The previous owner of this house had immigrated. It was already decorated in a French romantic style. I fell in love with it at first sight. There was no need for me to decorate it myself, and I could move in directly on the same day. I quickly signed the contract and asked the movers to move my luggage there. I had found several storage organizers in advance. In half a day, all my things were neatly and orderly stored. The money was well spent. I lay comfortably on the lounge chair in front of the floor to a ceiling window, looking at the scenery outside the window. My life could finally start anew. Peter soon came over with big and small bags. Peter was the first person I told after the divorce. After so many years, I was used to telling Peter everything, big or small. He would unconditionally stand by my side. "What are you bringing so many things for?" I saw that he was carrying a lot of things. The first meal in the new home must be eaten at home. I bought some food. As he was speaking, he put the things into the refrigerator one by one neatly. I bought some fruits and milk. It's cold now. Let them warm up to room temperature before eating. And, what a little housekeeper. I couldn't help but make a comment. Suddenly, I saw the box on the ground shake violently, and I was startled. Peter, that box is moving. Hearing this, Peter smiled. This is a gift for you. Come and open it and have a look. I was a little afraid, but then I heard a faint meow. My eyes lit up, and I trotted over. I opened the box carefully. It was a golden gradient cat. I squatted on the ground and carefully observed the cat. The cat that Peter had chosen was very affectionate and rubbed against my calf. My heart melted. Because Rocky had a cleanliness obsession, I had never thought that I could have a kitten. And Peter was the only one who knew that I liked cats. I held the cat and screamed loudly, Peter, you are just like a worm in my belly. I played with it for a while and named it Marshmallow. Peter quickly prepared the meal. Peter put a piece of sweet and sour spare ribs on my plate. Are you going to be okay alone tonight? He was a little worried about me, probably afraid that I might be too hard on myself, considering how much I liked Rocky before. Don't worry, I was the one who proposed the divorce. I have no feelings for Rocky anymore. After the car accident, my mind suddenly became clear. Isn't it amazing? Seeing that my relaxed expression didn't seem to be fake, Peter smiled with relief. I'm really happy that you can figure it out. Rocky doesn't deserve you. Since you are divorced, do you want to go back to the company? Before I got pregnant, I helped my father manage the company. Later, when I got pregnant, my father handed the company over to Peter, who was only 18 and still on summer vacation. The company shareholders had many opinions, but it turned out that my father had a good eye. In just 2 months, the company's turnover doubled or tripled. Later, Peter managed the company while studying, and he successfully became one of the most promising business rookies. I really wanted to go back to the company, but I had not worked for 5 years. Peter put down his chopsticks and looked at me. With your ability, you will get used to it quickly. Have you forgotten the shining self in the business world? My heart was pounding. I still remembered the joy when I signed my first contract in my life. I nodded and agreed to go back to the company. But 2 days later, it was my father's birthday, and I went home with Peter. I nervously told my parents, I'm divorced. Bame's face darkened, and he raised his hand to hit me. Dad, Peter shouted at him. My mother ran over and stood in front of me and hugged me. With a choked voice, she shouted loudly at Bame. What are you doing? We have ruined our daughter's first half of life. She is an adult and can make her own choices now. Give her life back to her. Suddenly, countless grievances welled up in my heart, and I hugged my mother and sobbed. Bame's eyes also became red, and he slapped himself hard. It's Dad's fault. At that time, I knew that Rocky's family was a dangerous place, but I still let you approach Rocky. I'm the one who has no right to blame you. My mother pulled me to the sofa. Haley, if you want to get divorced, just do it. Mom and Dad have seen everything over the years. My mother looked at me and Peter and said, Haley, let Peter move to your place to take care of you. I thought it was too troublesome for Peter. After all, I'm such a big person, and I still need my younger brother to come and take care of me. I can take care of myself. With the food you cook, it's good that you haven't poisoned yourself. My mother didn't agree. When it came to cooking skills, I smiled embarrassedly. I love cooking and like to study recipes. According to Rocky and Jack, it was extremely bad dark cuisine. But fortunately, Peter liked it, so this hobby has been retained until now. At this time, Peter looked at me nervously. Haley, you have never lived alone before, and there are many things in the company that need to be handed over to you. I thought it made sense. After all, I don't even eat the food I cook myself. I can't always order takeout. And since I just returned to the company, there are indeed many things that I need to consult Peter about. By the way, there is also Marshmallow. I still need Peter to help clean up the cat litter. I immediately nodded and agreed. Peter let out a sigh of relief, and my mother also smiled. Except for Peter, no one treats you like a child. I thought my mother was wrong. Obviously, Peter was the child in front of me. I really missed the glutinous rice dumpling that stuck to me every day when I was a child. Although I'm very busy at work, I haven't felt so fulfilled for a long time. The feeling of constantly upgrading is like fighting monsters, which makes me full of energy. I worked overtime for several hours before I got home. The lights at home were still on. Peter was waiting for me to come home. I'm used to waiting for Rocky to come home. For the first time, someone prepared a meal at home and waited for me to come back. Unconsciously, the corners of my mouth turned up. When I walked into the living room, I found that Peter had fallen asleep waiting for me. I tiptoed over with a blanket. As soon as I got closer, I was stunned. Peter was lying on a single recliner. When I lay on it, there was still a lot of space left. but Peter seemed to be lying on a child's recliner, with his legs hanging half-way over it. Peter has grown up. I didn't think about that at all before. Now, looking carefully, Peter's figure is really good. I lowered my eyes, and my sight fell on his pectoral muscles. I was looking very carefully, not knowing that Peter had already opened his eyes and was looking at me. How did he manage to keep his skin so good? It's white and delicate. It must feel good to the touch. Maybe it will leave red marks if you press a little harder. His bathrobe was opened very low, and I could see half of his grandfather's lover. There are traces of fitness, and it's white and bulging. Even from a height, you can see a bit of attractive pink. Just looking at him makes me feel good. It must be very exciting to bite him like this. Maybe he will cry. As soon as I thought of the picture in my mind, my face flushed instantly. I shook my head crazily, trying to get the picture out of my mind. I must be drunk and a little confused. I just bent down to cover him with a blanket. When I inadvertently raised my eyes, I suddenly bumped into a pair of bottomless eyes. It startled me, and I lost my balance and threw myself on Peter. Just in time, my face was buried in his pectoral muscles and the pink near my mouth. My old face flushed, and I wanted to get up from him, but the shaking recliner made me unable to find the point of force. As soon as I got up a little, the chair shook and I fell on Peter's chest again. This is forced to bury my chest. I don't want to do this. Peter held my waist with his big hand. He sat up and controlled the shaking of the recliner. Haley, what are you doing? His voice was still hoarse when he just woke up. I raised the blanket in my hand and covered my face awkwardly. I just wanted to cover you with a blanket. He laughed lowly, with his chest vibrating. Only then did I realize that I was still sitting on his lap. I angrily covered Peter's head with the blanket, quickly climbed down from his lap and ran back to the room. I have almost mastered the company's business in these days. I'm very relaxed and humming a song while walking. When I was in the parking lot of the community, I suddenly saw Rocky's car. I just felt unlucky and was calculating how many days were left to go to the Civil Affairs Bureau to get the divorce certificate while walking. Jack was blocking the elevator door. It was Dad who asked me to come to you. He was still angry and wanted me not to be self-indulgent. He asked me to apologize to you. He turned his head arrogantly and didn't look at me. Sorry, calling Serena mother last time was just my prank. He pouted. Who knew you really had amnesia? It doesn't matter, I said softly. Jack turned his head and looked at me, and his eyes lit up. I looked at him and continued, I have divorced your father. In the future, you don't have to apologize to me if you want to call someone mother. Serena will soon become your new mother. She is a very nice person, and you like her very much. You will live a happier life in the future. He followed me all the way to my door and didn't plan to leave. Do you have anything else to do? If not, I'll close the door. Jack's eyes widened, and he looked incredulous. I've apologized to you. You don't forgive me. You'll regret it. Jack looked at me with tears in his eyes as I was about to close the door. This was the first time I had treated him so coldly and heartlessly. He shouted angrily at the door. You treat me like this. When you recover your memory and remember me, don't beg me to forgive you. Even if you kneel down, I won't forgive you. The first time I heard Jack say such words, I hid in the room and cried secretly. I kept doubting myself, wondering if I didn't teach him well, why my own son didn't like me, and thinking whether I was unworthy to be a mother. But now it's different. I have no inner fluctuations. The mother-son relationship between me and Jack was broken when he called someone else mother. Sometimes I often suspect that Peter is seducing me, but I have no evidence. For example, at this time, Peter was wearing a set of home leisure clothes and making coffee for me, a soft cotton white t-shirt and gray pants, like a male college student. No, he just graduated from college. So young, I sighed on the sofa. Look at this butt, this waist. TSK TSK TSK, it's really pleasing to the eye. No wonder people like to keep male models. Peter came over with coffee, and I immediately read the magazine seriously. I took a sip of coffee. As soon as Peter sat down, Marshmallow jumped onto his lap and lay down. My eyes were attracted, and I watched Marshmallow step on the milk on Peter's gray pants. Wait, gray pants? I couldn't help but focus my eyes on a certain corner. So big. Peter leaned close to my ear, and his breath swept across my ear. Haley, where are you looking? My ears were itchy, and my breathing stopped suddenly, and my eyes were floating everywhere. I meant the cat has grown up a lot. I blushed and rushed back to the room. I sent a message to my best friend. After Peter lived here, I feel that he seduces me every day. Should I find a man? My best friend excitedly called me. You finally noticed. Such a handsome guy has liked you for so many years, and you just found out now? I'm in a mess. He likes me? I thought he always regarded me as his sister. I covered my chest. I didn't know where the trace of joy came from at this moment. That's nonsense. Anyone with a discerning eye can see that he likes you. You don't even know that he pretends to be a little white rabbit in front of you, and his face is as ugly as a big bad wolf outside, which can scare people to death. So, since you are divorced, consider Peter. He is much better than that scumbag. I'm very confused now. The company's affairs are enough for me to be busy with. I don't want to think about anything else. After hanging up the phone with my best friend in a panic, another phone call came in. I answered it. It was Rocky. Haley, Jack has a fever and is clamoring for you. Can you come home and see him? There was a hint of pleading in the voice from the other end of the phone for no reason. I walked to the balcony and blew the wind. I said softly, Rocky, I have called you several times like this. I was a mother for the first time. Every time the baby was sick, I would be at a loss and didn't know what to do. Although there was a family doctor, I still called Rocky with trembling hands and wanted him to come home with a cry. But what was his reaction at that time? His cold voice seemed to still echo in my ears at that time. You see, it's okay if you can't take care of yourself, but how can you not even take care of Jack? Haley, his voice was hoarse. What you said is very reasonable. So now, I just want to take good care of myself. Haley, have you recovered from your amnesia? His voice was as careful as I had never heard before. I have never had amnesia from the beginning to the end. See you at the Civil Affairs Bureau in a month. Don't think that I will come back to you happily when I recover my memory. I said word by word. There is no possibility between us anymore. There seemed to be the sound of some glass breaking on the other side. I didn't wait for him to speak and hung up the phone. By the way, I blocked his mobile phone number and will contact him again in a month. From that day on, I began to see Rocky frequently, but he just sat in the car and looked at me quietly without disturbing my life. Maybe he was not reconciled. Maybe it was the bad factor in men that made him think that what he couldn't get was the best. Anyway, when I see Rocky now, I just regard him as a passing stranger. Today is Sunday. As soon as I opened the door, I saw Jack coming with a big photo album. He was very familiar. He just squeezed in through the crack of the door and sat on the sofa. He completely forgot that the last time he came to me, he asked me to kneel down and beg him for forgiveness. Jack opened the photo album and pulled me over. Mom, look, this is when I was still in your belly, and this one is my photo just after I was born. Aren't I cute? Grandma said that I was the cutest baby in the whole hospital. He wanted to awaken my motherly love for him, but when I looked at my photos, I only felt sorry for myself at that time. I was very thin in the photo, but my belly was bulging high. At that time, I was tortured by pregnancy reaction and vomited everything I ate. I was very haggard, and my hair was dry. Jack was very naughty and always liked to kick me in the middle of the night. Looking at the photos, I couldn't help sighing, so selfish. Mom, what did you say? Jack looked at me in confusion. I was weak and thin because of pregnancy in the photo, but you only focused on yourself. You don't know how hard it was for me to give birth to you after 10 months of pregnancy. Jack will not empathize with me. He will not understand my efforts for him. He is a refined egoist like his father. I closed the photo album and said, go away. These photos will only remind me of some painful memories. Jack refused to leave and made a fuss. Finally, the housekeeper of Rocky's family took him away. After leaving last time, Jack was not reconciled. After a few days, he came to me again with a ceramic plate. Mom, look, this is the plate you made for me by yourself. You said you spent a whole day making it. Oh, then why is it broken? He stammered, but I knew. He smashed it. He thought it was too ugly and it would be embarrassing to take it to school. The splashed ceramic fragments scratched my arm, and there is still an indelible thin mark now. I have no artistic talent. This ceramic plate is the best one among the more than 10 I made. Finally, Rocky bought a work of an artist for him and let him take it to school, and this one was glued together by me bit by bit. But no matter what it is, once there is a crack, it can't be repaired anymore. This is already a defective product. I threw it into the trash can casually, and it was instantly broken into pieces. Since there is a new substitute, there is no need to keep this one anymore. Jack looked at the broken plate and was stunned. Then he thought of something and looked up at me happily. Mom, have you recovered your memory and remembered me? I shook my head. I have not lost my memory. I just don't want to remember things about you and Rocky anymore. I didn't plan to say more to Jack and drove him out. Jack walked away in a daze. There was a business dinner in the evening. Peter insisted on coming with me when he knew about it. He was afraid that I would drink too much, but it turned out that his alcohol tolerance was worse. Both of us had drunk and couldn't drive. It was very close to home. I supported Peter and planned to walk back to sober up in the cold wind. Taking advantage of his drunkenness, I asked him casually, Peter, do you like me? His dark eyes suddenly lit up. He looked at me silently for a long time, then suddenly looked away and nodded heavily with a red face. My heart was pounding, and I changed the topic. What did you drink just now? He thought for a moment and said, it seems to be brandy. Really? Bend down a little. He obediently bent down and looked at me. His lips were very tender, full, and there was a beautiful lip bead. I leaned forward and kissed him. So soft, like a liquor-flavored marshmallow. I licked my lips to savor the taste. Peter opened his eyes wide in drunkenness and astonishment. I acted as if nothing had happened and said, well, it is really brandy. I walked forward, leaving Peter, whose blushing had spread to his ears, frozen in place. Peter quickly caught up and hugged me tightly. He slightly arched his body to surround me, buried his head in my neck, and was as happy as a child. He kept muttering, Haley, I like you so much. As soon as we got home, Peter seemed to sober up and pressed me against the door. Haley, can I kiss you? Seeing me nod, he was like a puppy seeing a bone, with a terrifyingly hot look in his eyes. We kissed all the way to the bed. He gently pecked at my collarbone. Sensing my trembling, he stopped. He leaned close to my ear, his voice wet and moist, and said, Haley, don't push me away anymore. In the dark, I unbuckled his belt. At a party organized by Rocky's friends, Rocky was drinking sullenly all the time. He caught the gossiping conversation of the people around him. Suddenly, with a bang, Rocky overturned the table beside him. What did you say? Peter is just your adopted son? He has always liked Haley? Rocky's face sank instantly, and his voice was colder than ever before. Rocky got very angry. His eyes were red, and he threw all the wine bottles on the table to the ground. The air around him froze. Several people saw Rocky get angry for the first time and trembled with fear and didn't dare to speak. Rocky suddenly thought of a fatal problem. Peter had never called him brother-in-law, nor had he ever called Haley's sister. This hypocrite. Rocky immediately drove to Peter's company. As soon as he walked into the office, he grabbed Peter's collar and punched Peter. Rocky gnashed his teeth. You are really something. I regarded you as my brother-in-law, but you actually like your sister. Peter wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and smiled with a contemptuous look in his eyes. Are you worthy of being my brother-in-law? Just open your messages and look at the chat records with me. Although Rocky was puzzled, he still opened his phone and searched for Peter's chat page. He found it quickly because Rocky would ask him for something every once in a while. Rocky looked at the chat records, and his face became paler and paler. Accompany your sister to have a prenatal check-up. She has a severe pregnancy reaction and refuses to eat at home. Come here. She has postpartum depression. If you have time, accompany her to go abroad for a trip. I don't have time. Haley has a fever. Haley is throwing a tantrum again. I don't have time to accompany her. Go and check on her for me. Haley has a car accident. Come and take care of her. Peter replied to each message instantly. Peter had never taken the initiative to come to him, nor had he ever taken the initiative to see Haley. It was all proposed by Rocky himself. During this marriage, Peter accompanied Haley to 14 prenatal check-ups. Countless times when Haley was sad or hurt, he asked Peter to accompany her. Peter completely played the role of a husband in their marriage, and he just realized it belatedly. He used to always memory that their brother-sister relationship was good. Peter was also the executive president of a listed company, but as long as he sent a message about Haley, he could immediately leave his work and come. Rocky's hand trembled as he scrolled through the chat records. Peter gave Rocky a hard punch back. Rocky didn't dodge and took the punch firmly. He staggered a little and supported himself against the wall. Peter looked at Rocky coldly and said, Do you have any thoughts after reading? I've wanted to punch you for a long time. I ask you, where were you when Haley had a difficult childbirth? Peter answered for him. Your wife and child's lives were in danger, and you were watching Serena's music performance abroad. I ask you why she had a car accident? It was you who left her on the highway for Serena. Where were you when she was sick and uncomfortable? Did you ever think that she was your wife when you left her again and again? There was a trace of bitterness at the corner of Rocky's mouth. He wanted to refute, but these were all facts. It seemed that a pair of hands were choking his neck. He was stuck in his throat and his brain was blank. Hearing the assistant say that Rocky came to the company to find Peter in a threatening manner, I immediately called the security guards and went to the top floor office together. Rocky, what are you doing? As soon as I got out of the elevator, I saw Rocky angrily grabbing Peter's collar. The security guards stepped forward to stop Rocky, and I stood in front of Peter. The swollen corner of Peter's mouth was very obvious on his white and tender face. There were tears in his eyes, looking pitiful. I touched his face with heartache. Is this your upbringing? I looked at Rocky very calmly. Rocky's body swayed because he saw the disgust for him in my eyes. Haley, I'm also injured. I looked away and left with Peter. Security guards, see the guest out. Don't let irrelevant people enter the company in the future. Rocky has let Jack come to me again. Perhaps he wants to use my motherly love for Jack to keep me. But I'm not the same as before. Kid, don't come to me anymore. I have divorced your father and I'm no longer your mother. Hearing how I addressed him, Jack became flustered all at once. Mom, Jack wants to eat the dark cuisine you made, wants Mom to tell me a bedtime story, and wants you to hold me to sleep. Jack, anyone can do these things. You're just not used to me not being by your side. I turned around to leave. Jack grabbed the hem of my skirt, choking with sobs. No, Mom, Jack really knows he was wrong. It was just Jack's prank that day. I don't like Aunt Serena at all. Jack promises that he will never do this again. Dad is a liar. He said you would come back when you recovered your memory. But you clearly remember Jack but don't want Jack anymore. Grandma told me that Mom had a hard time when she was pregnant with me. Jack was too naughty when he was little and always made Mom angry. I looked down at him and said, Jack, never wait until you've lost something to know how to cherish it. Jack, with tears in his eyes, hugged my thigh and said, Mom, have I lost you? This is the last lesson for you as your mother. I hope that in the future you don't be mean to those you love or those who love you. You should learn to respect others, and then others will respect you. When people are hurt, they will leave. Jack was crying with snot and tears running down his face. He knelt on the ground and held onto the hem of my skirt tightly. Mom, give Jack one more chance. Jack will definitely get rid of his bad habits. Jack won't be like Dad. Please trust Jack just this once. Jack is the baby born by Mom. I helped him up and said, Jack, it's a fact that I have separated from your father. I will never go back to that home again. He wiped his tears and said, Mom, if you don't want Dad, then I don't want Dad either. If you don't come to see me, can I still come to see you in the future? I promise to be good. It's your choice. People can never be taught by others, but they will learn from one event. Without deep and unforgettable experiences, one cannot have a complete understanding. I just hope that Jack can put aside his arrogance and prejudice in the future. Be a good person in himself, and don't let those who love him be disappointed anymore. Don't he'll follow in his father's footsteps. After signing a big contract at the client's company, I was about to drive back when I ran into Serena. She invited me to have a cup of coffee in the coffee shop. Miss Haley, last time at the hospital, I thought Jack was testing whether you really had amnesia, so I didn't refute. I really need to apologize to you for this. I shouldn't have intruded into your and Rocky's life. I shouldn't have been tempted by money to be Jack's teacher. Serena lowered her head. My divorce from Rocky is definitely not because of you. Don't blame yourself. I know you're not that kind of person. I still owe Serena a favor. During the sophomore year of high school, Serena came to our class for a short period of time. At that time, Serena's position in the New York could be regarded as the little princess of the New York. But she was not arrogant at all. She always smiled gently at people, and her emotions were very stable. She told me that only when you focus on yourself will the universe revolve around you. Facts have proved that she really sees things much more clearly than I do. I resigned from that job after you left. I've figured it out. I can't always rely on the pity of Rocky's family to live. I need to make myself stronger. I opened my phone and sent a file to Serena. In order to repay Serena's kindness, I secretly investigated the Sam's Group. The Sam's Group has been a century-old enterprise. It can't be described as just wealthy. Nobly is a more appropriate description. Its downfall overnight is really suspicious. I helped her find out some small actions of her relatives abroad, and she can handle the rest by herself. There is still a high probability that Serena's family can make a comeback. After all, they have a solid family background. A lean camel is bigger than a horse. Serena was very grateful to me when she saw the file. Suddenly, she thought of Rocky. So, you and Rocky. I pointed out of the window. Peter was standing outside in a gray overcoat waiting for me patiently. She smiled, sincerely. Wish you happiness. Rocky really isn't worth it. Serena left, saying that Rocky wanted to see me. Rocky told me in detail the beautiful past events that happened between him and me. I interrupted him. You can go back to the past, but there is no one there anymore. Rocky grabbed my hand, with a trace of choking in his voice. Haley, I'm very sure now that the person I love is you, only you. I pulled my hand away from his. Very seriously, I said. Love doesn't need to be confirmed. Only uncertain love needs to be confirmed repeatedly. He still continued to persuade me to stay. Haley, tomorrow is my birthday. Usually, on my birthday, you would make me a bowl of longevity noodles. I asked him in return, Rocky, do you know that last Sunday was my birthday? Rocky pursed his lips slightly, thought for a few moments, and his face was full of regret. You see, the person you love the most is actually yourself. Sorry, I'll give you the most magnificent birthday party. I shook my head. This is not about the birthday anymore. No need, Rocky. You still don't understand. What's missed is missed. I've made an appointment. Let's go to the Civil Affairs Bureau tomorrow to get the divorce certificate. After leaving you, I finally learned to love myself. So please, don't disturb my life anymore. I turned and ran towards Peter. He had been waiting for me in the cold wind for a long time. I won't let him wait for me anymore. Rocky, when I really realized that I had lost Haley, it was the moment I got the divorce certificate. Before that, even on the day of signing the divorce agreement, I was fearless. I always firmly believed that after Haley recovered her memory, we could be the same as before. But I didn't expect. She didn't have amnesia from the beginning to the end. I instantly fell into a huge panic, as if something had quietly slipped away from my heart. People are always creatures who realize things belatedly. They have to wait until they have lost something to truly understand the meaning of cherishing. I started to look through her previous WeChat moments, looking at the daily life she shared with me before, looking at the vivid descriptions she gave me in the chat records. I couldn't help laughing. It turns out that the messages she sent me before were so interesting. It's just that most of the chat records are long messages sent by her, but I seldom replied or even read them. Slowly, she began to send less daily life to me, and even stopped sending messages to me actively. People's desire to share will not disappear, but will only be transferred, so she began to tell Peter about the little things in her life. Unconsciously, Peter has seamlessly inserted himself into Haley's life. But I didn't care, thinking that they just had a good brother-sister relationship. I have always been enjoying her kindness to me. I'm used to being loved, always enjoying, thinking that she would never leave. Until I really lost her, I suddenly realized. It turns out that I love Haley. But Haley has left. Jack has also left. He said that he was going to a boarding school. He didn't want the servants to take care of him. He said that he could take care of himself. After Jack left, only I was left in the huge house. It doesn't look like a home anymore, without a trace of warmth. Haley is really cruel. She didn't leave me any of her things. Sometimes I envy Jack. At least he can go to see his mother every week and call his mother. But I can only drink every day to numb my nerves. The pictures of her being by my side before keep circling in my mind. I'm infinitely self-blaming and regretful, hating myself for missing so many opportunities. Every night, I feel as if a knife is cutting my heart. Clearly, I met her who loved me so much a long time ago. Clearly, I could have been very happy. I've ruined everything. Looking at the only photo of our wedding, tears just fell down. Why didn't the future me travel back 6 years ago to tell Rocky not to hurt her, not to push her away, and not to let her go? If I had another chance, I would definitely hold her hand tightly. Even death couldn't separate us. Unfortunately, there is no if. She is getting married. She was still my wife a few months ago. My mind is in a mess. How could this happen? I told Jack the news that his mother was going to marry Peter, hoping that he could be as painful as I was that his mother had cruelly abandoned us. But Jack wasn't sad. He was happy for his mother. Mom and uncle are very happy together. I hope mom can be happy. Yes, even a child knows that she is happier with Peter. What right do I have to complain about Haley? I went to her wedding. The wedding that I couldn't hold for her was held by Peter. Jack volunteered to be the flower boy. The wedding was very grand. Only then did I know that Haley looked so beautiful in her wedding dress. Wish you happiness. Thank you. She gave a bright smile. She has let go. And I have missed happiness. I will never be happy in my life. This is the biggest punishment for me. The end. If you like Puppy's story, please follow and like it. Updated every morning at 9 a.m.